Welcome to OWNorDisown, where tech decisions are made easy.
Hi, Stephen from OWNorDisown. Mello Electronics were kind enough to send me their new 2024 Max 15 to check out. Now, before we jump into that though, a quick word from today's sponsor, Mello Power. Now on Kickstarter is your opportunity to own the world's sleekest high-performance charger in the world by Mello Power, starting at only $48. If you travel a lot, hate carrying multiple chargers and freaking cables around, well, it's available with a keychain and in 5 different colours. You can carry it on your belt, you can carry it on your bag, you can carry it anywhere and look cool while doing so with its all leather wrap. It's powered by a 20-watt GAN charger, so powers up your devices fast. It comes with its own patented magnetic charging cable that attaches to the charger so it won't get lost or get tangled up. You can choose to have a USB-C cable, an Apple Lightning cable, or both via several Kickstarter rewards. So get in and make a pledge before they are gone, as this campaign closes on June the 28th. Available in several plug types, Mello works in over 180 countries, and unlike many regular chargers, the prongs fold in neatly out of the way. Check out the Kickstarter link in the description and join the thousands backing this exciting project. I'm sure your friends will want one too. Well, welcome back. So yeah, Max 15. I'm sure I've reviewed a Max 15 in the past, and I must say, I'd say this is a step up in terms of the quality. Not saying that one was bad, it was certainly very good, but this is very, very nice. And in fact, if it was made by somebody like Dell or whatever, people will be jumping all over it, right? But build quality is very nice. It's available actually in 3 different colours. As you can see here, I've got the white model, but you can also get like a green model and a black model. Now it does have an all aluminium build, so the lid here is all aluminium and it's very rigid. There's no flex. The hinges are also, nice and stiff. Keyboard deck, nice and clean looking. It does actually come with a bit of a wrap here to stop the scratching, which you can take off. Very, very nice. In fact, the keys as well are full RGB per key. Very easy to configure in the software. Really, really did like that. And at the front, you have a very nice light bar. You've got a separate number pad, big arrow keys, and of course here you've got at the top, you've got the power button on the right hand side, and to the left of it you do have a button that by default would switch to different power modes, so whether it's office mode, balance mode, or beast mode. Now that can be changed in the BIOS if you want to change that to operate auto fan or max fan, but by default max fan is operated by pressing the FN and the 1 key. That's very nice, easy to do. Now what I did like about the mode change button here, it does a little light on there, so it changes colour like Lenovo does when you change power modes. It just does, changes colour so you can easily see there, but it also notifies you up on the screen as well when you do change power modes. It's very, very good. Now it's not exactly cheap, this model. I got it set up here as about $1,900, but you do pay, for the lightweight and the build quality. In fact, as you can see, I'm carrying it by one hand here. It's about 4 pounds 11 ounces as it is here, and with the 280 watt GAN power brick, which is pretty small, that goes up to about 6 pounds 7 ounces. So it's very, very portable. So let's have a quick look at its specs. So my unit has the RTX 4060, it's a 140 watt part. It's got the i9 14900HX CPU, so a very good CPU there. Now it does say the PL1 is 140 watts. It doesn't get anywhere near that. Of course, it's a thin chassis here, but it still performs well, and we'll get to that in a bit. Now it's a 2560 by 1600, 240 Hz IPS panel. Now there's no advanced optimums, no Gsync. I didn't see that much in the way of tearing while playing. I mean, I would have preferred if it was Gsync, and I would have preferred having advanced Optimus, but there is a mux switch, so you can switch from between integrated GPU and dedicated GPU doing a reboot. Now my unit has 32 gigabytes of RAM, and you can configure all this on their website. Got a full configuration tool. You can choose how much RAM you want. Now there are 2 slots, so you can go up to 64 gigabytes, and there are 2 SSD slots. Now mine has one stick of 1 terabyte, but you can configure up to 8 terabytes on their website, so that's nice. Now, it has an 80 watt hour battery, and testing the battery life at 112 nits, which is 50% brightness, I got like 4 hours 10 minutes, and that's using integrated GPU. So that's not too bad. Now you can get like a 98 watt hour battery to up that a little bit, perhaps get more closer to the 5 hour mark, but it's not bad. Now some may criticize, it's not a mini LED display or an OLED, but I think you'd find that the viewing angles are really good. I didn't see any backlight bleed, so that was very, very nice. And I also thought the ghosting performance was okay. Not as good as like the OLED, but it's certainly, typical 240 hertz ghosting performance had a pass from me. Now, it does have a full 1080p webcam here with a privacy shutter as well, right? Ooh. So this is what the webcam looks and sounds like. Now, the webcam is pretty good, but it does pick up the fan noise. Let's put it on max fan. Now when you're typing. Now, like I said, the panel I thought was very nice. It's got 100% of sRGB, 79% of Adobe RGB, and 81% of the P3 color space. And it's bright. It's at 547 nits at max brightness. That's not bad at all, is it? And the contrast was 1120:1. Not bad at all. In terms of the color accuracy, it got an average delta score of 1.24, which is fine. The cyan was a little bit high, but you need a really good discernible eye to spot that. Looked good to me. Now, above the keyboard here, you do have some air intakes as well, and you'd want to think that with the being all aluminium, the chassis would get pretty hot, but I mean, it got pretty toasty at the top here to touch, but where your hands are, very, very cool. Where your wrists are, very cool. And even underneath, I thought it was cool. So gaming on your lap would be fine as well. Now, the cooling, you do have 4 heat pipes, 4 heat sinks, and of course 2 fans. And to test the cooling performance of this, I choose Far Cry 6 because that does stress out the CPU in particular, and that's typically what gets hot. So let's take a look at that. So in beast mode, using the auto fan, the GPU would get up to about 80 degrees Celsius and about 100 watts, and the 14900HX around about 88 degrees and using 52 watts. Now, that was about 46 decibels of fan noise. Now, applying the max fan, again, we produce 46 decibels of fan noise, so it does suggest to me just, auto fan and the max fan are, going to be operating at the same speed. Now, in terms of temperatures, the GPU 81 degrees, CPU 87 degrees, so about the same. But I did notice a little bit extra power going to the GPU. It went from 100 watts to 103 watts. Consequently, the power to the CPU went a little bit down. We're looking at a total of like 153, 152 watts combined here. Now, balance mode, using the auto fan, the GPU used about 96 watts, so 4 watts less, and 78 degrees, so it's a tad cooler. CPU at 80 degrees and 47 watts. And that was 46 decibels as well. So you might as well use beast mode if you want performance and the noise is a concern. Office mode, that certainly brought things down a bit. GPU was 72 degrees. The GPU will fluctuate between 20 and 90 watts, so it was all over the place. The CPU, 70 degrees, 14 watts, so very low. And in fact, it's not really playable in office mode. The FPS would range from 8 to 56 FPS. I wouldn't recommend it. The fan noise in office mode was pretty good, 33 decibels, but if you can't play, what's the point there? And playing on battery, I think that was pretty much of a no-go. You'd have to reduce it down to say 1920 by 1200 and very low settings to even get marginal playable player frame rates, but I wouldn't recommend it. So the cooling, I think, is pretty decent. I never saw it really going into the 90s. I think it's a good combination. I think it's a very well balanced system. The CPU and the GPU about 150 odd watts. The system can cool the combination of both. But how good is the CPU, the 4900HX in this? So let's take a look at that. So in Cinebench R23, I show it the Eluktronics MAX 15 in the yellow bars. Now I do beast mode and balance mode. Beast mode was using 87 watts, it was at 95 degrees. Balance mode 75 watts and 95 degrees. And as you can see in beast mode, we've got 28,126 points, the multi-core score, and that was pretty decent. In fact, it slightly beat the Asus Scar 18 in performance mode. Of course, you could do turbo mode on that and crank it up more, but for a 15-inch machine thin, that is very good. And if you compare it to the Omen Transcend 16, which I recently reviewed, that was a fairly thin and light machine, but slightly bigger. You know, it beat that quite handily, didn't it? So very good. And even in balance mode, 25,960, 75 watts. It beat the Legion 7i with a 13900 HX, 125 watts. So very, very good. And the single core score in Cinebench R23, yeah, 2151. So actually it was top of the pack. And looking at Cinebench 2024, it got a multi-core score of 1632 and a single core of 127. Now that single core was the best listed, and even the multi-core score, it held its own, certainly easily beating the 14900 HX in the Omen Transcend 16. So fantastic. And we saw about 89 watts, 94 degrees there. And looking at the TimeSpy CPU score, it got 14,922. So again, I beat the Omen Transcend 16. Yeah, all in all, not bad at all. In fact, it even beat the MSI Titan 18HX and its 14900 HX. So yeah, if you want to use the Max 15 for any CPU work, I think it can certainly handle it. Now, I must point out, it's undervolted by 40 millivolts out of the box. Now, that's you go into the BIOS, you can see it there, right? So you can change it to what you want, but it's already undervolted. So that's very, very nice. Kudos to Eluktronics and Prema for their BIOS for doing that. On the left-hand side, you have a USB Type-C 3.2 Gen 2. You have one USB Type-A 3.2 Gen 1. And you have a 3.5mm combo universal audio jack. And on the right-hand side, you have two USB Type-A's 3.2 Gen 1. You have a full-size SD card reader, which you put a card in there, it sticks half the way out. And around the rear, you do have an HDMI 2.1, and that's connected to the dedicated GPU. So if you're wanting to use it for like VR, that type of thing, that is very good. You have a Thunderbolt 4 that's connected to the dedicated GPU as well, and it supports power delivery up to 100 watts. The trackpad is made of glass, not plastic. It's made of glass, so that's nice. It's got a nice beveled edge around the side, which, when you tilt it in certain lighting conditions, you can see it sort of shining silver, so I like that. And the speakers, well, they fire from underneath here. They're actually not too bad. I mean, they're about 75 decibels, so they're not the loudest, but I'd say they're pretty average in terms of loudness, but they had good audio separation. So if I was playing like Far Cry 6, I could hear birds over to the left or to the right, with the action in the middle. That worked out pretty well. So not the loudest, but certainly passable. So how does it game, and what are the thermals like when you were gaming? In CyberPower 2077, using 2560 by 1600 Ray Tracing Ultra and DLSS set to balanced. The 4060 was, low 80s, and the 14900 HX went up to around about 89 degrees, which I didn't think was too bad. And here we did see a combined GPU and the CPU power of around about 176 watts. So 125 watts on the GPU and 51 watts or so on the CPU. So that's not bad. And in terms of the frame rate, we got 44 FPS in beast mode. That is pretty good, isn't it? I mean, you compare that to the Omen Transcend 16, and that had 130 watt 4070, peaked at 51 FPS. So it's not too far behind that, but the Omen in balance mode was about the same, only on 45. And we know that the Omen didn't really push anywhere near the 130 watts. So, this 4060 is pretty nice. In Assassin's Creed Valhalla, also 2560 by 1600 ultra-high settings, the 4060 was around about 81 degrees, and the 14900 HX around about 89 degrees or so. Combined, around about 151 watts, say 103 watts on the 4060, and around about 49 watts on the 4900HX. And using the benchmark tool, we got 69 FPS, which, you know, is very close again to the 4070 in, you say, eco or balanced mode on that Transcend 16. So not too bad at all. Now, of course, it's available in the 4070, the 140 watt 4070. So if you were to get that, you would probably get closer to 78 FPS. In Far Cry 6, we got 66 FPS. And again, that, you know, was pretty much on par with the 4070 in the Omen Transcend 16 when we used like balance mode. So all in all, not bad at all. Particularly when you consider it's only 46 decibels. It's not that loud, really. Now, Watch Dogs Legion, just for shits and giggles here, I tested it with ray tracing at ultra, using ultra settings, and no DLSS at 2560 by 1600. Now at these settings, you're not going to play at these settings because you've only got 8 gigabytes of VRAM on the 4060. These settings use over 9 gigabytes, right? But just to show how it compared to the 4070, 140 watt, it's got 14 FPS compared to 25. So, but yeah, certainly if you lower the settings, you can get a good frame rates. In fact, switching it to very high with ray tracing set to medium and DLSS set to balanced. The video memory is about 7,545. You get a 1% low of about 43 and an average of 69. Very, very good. So using these settings, the 4060 is around about 80 degrees and the 4900HX about 89 degrees. And interestingly, again, we get about 100 watts or so on the 4060 and 54 on the CPU there. So what do I think of the Eluktronics MAX 15? Well, I do like it. It's very good build quality. You know, it looks nice too. You know, when you get a new car, you park it, you look back at it, that's a sign it's a good car. Did the same thing with this laptop. You know, I would often just see it on the desk, and I'd love the RGB lighting. The front here, it's very, very nice. The keyboard RGB is very nice, and it's all easy to alter everything in their software. I think it's probably one of the best. I also like that you can easily change power modes, easy do the max fan, turn that off and on. Webcam was good. Perhaps the only criticism I've got, speakers weren't the loudest, but it sounded okay. This perhaps could be the price. But I mean, this is available, of course, in the 4060 and the 4070. There are cheaper models to get if that's all you want. If you want a 4060, you might be able to get it for like $1,200. You can save quite a bit of money, right? But this is portable. It's thin. It's got good connectivity. The panel's good as well. You know, it's a good business machine, I think. You know, there's no markings on the lid. It's very clean. So if you want to use it at college or on a meeting or so, you can do, right? And it fits into a bag very nicely. So I think there was a market for this. And I say if it was made by Dell or somebody like that, you know, it would be selling like hotcakes. So hopefully Eluktronics will get some good sales on this. And I'd like to thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.